sidewalks are a place for robust speech. And robust speech is not always pleasant. It can be an argument or discussion and things that can be said that are upsetting and annoying. And protest is supposed to be annoying and disruptive. So no one has the right to walk in a sidewalk free of annoyances of other people. We have to live with other people and we all own the sidewalk together. And everything in this case occurred on the sidewalk. And in the first instance where they said my client had committed violence, he didn't commit any violence. He tried to stop further violence. The petitioner on his electric scooter that's illegally being ridden on the sidewalk against the vehicle code, on that sidewalk that he was blocking their ability to get past him. He shoved that scooter into my client. My client grabbed the scooter to stop him. And he yelled out, startled, that he was run over and pinned against the tree. So to try to turn that into something my client did to him, it didn't fly, it wasn't credible, and the judge made the right decision. And she carefully went over that evidence.
Yes,
Because the way she gave her decision, she carefully went over that evidence. And I would also like to add, she was very generous with the petitioner's side of this case. This was a 3-day trial. And we had a lot of so-called housekeeping on the first half of the first day because Mr. Moxon did not properly provide his exhibits, and there was a lot of mess that had to be cleaned up. Evidentiary objections that had to be ruled upon. So he ended up then getting all the time after that for his case, plus time on the third day, and I'm still not able to put on my case. I shortened my case. I put on only my client because I felt seeing 3 different versions of the video was enough. And we slowed it down, and we showed individual frames. We went back over it. And his witnesses gave much of the testimony that was very helpful to us. And my client is credible because he's telling the truth. And so I can put on the other 2 witnesses that I had in the interest of efficiency, and because I felt that the petitioner's witness had helped us out quite a bit, and that the video doesn't lie, and the judge was carefully watching everything, and she gave a decision that is the kind of decision that we want. We want to win, but regardless, we want a judge who's paying attention and makes careful note of the evidence and makes a ruling on the evidence. And the ruling was made today on the evidence, and we prevailed. And, Scientology needs to take note. This is the 4th such restraining order. They do different varieties. This is the 4th restraining order on which I've been retained to represent the protester. And we've won on each one. 4 for 4. So I don't know if they want to keep bringing it on because I'm going to keep coming back to court representing protesters against Scientology. And I'm going to conduct my trials the same way I conducted this one and the others. And I don't think Scientology should keep doing this. I think Scientology needs to recognize that they're on thin ice. Because it's very clear each one of these litigants that brings these bogus restraining orders is either obviously funded by Scientology. In one of the cases, the litigant admitted they were funded by Scientology, or they are deeply, deeply embedded and ingrained and involved in Scientology, and they're just doing their bidding. In this case, every single person on the petitioner's side was some kind of Scientologist, including a lawyer and his assistant, all the people involved, and they had other Scientology people showing up, some lawyers. This is about Scientology. This is not about these individual people needing restraining orders. They are abusing the restraining order process. And I've been doing restraining orders for 23 years. Restraining orders are serious. Restraining order law, whether it's civil harassment, elder abuse, or domestic violence, is there to protect vulnerable people who need protection. The reason they have a provision that if you are too afraid to notify the other party that you're getting a TRO, you don't even have to give them notice that within 24 hours you're going into court. And that's to protect people who are genuinely at risk. These Scientology restraining order things that they do, they always go in and say they're too afraid to tell anybody so they can fill up their forms with lies, get a TRO, and then it takes a while to get to trial. So my client's been damaged. My client's been damaged. There's been a TRO against him that has prohibited him from doing his protesting at the Blue Building since June 4th. This needs to stop.
Yes.
Do you think they knew from the beginning that it was based on nothing? They probably lose, but just pack it in. Interesting.
Absolutely.
So you think they knew, huh?
I'll tell you what the win is for them. Mr. Valeda took over the leadership for a particular type of protest that was going to be serving unhoused people food and supplies that they need and services in the public areas near Scientology's Blue Building. Because Scientology has a history of being unkind and cruel to homeless people, unhoused people.
Correct.
And
Yes.
because the original leader of this had a restraining order just like this served on him a few days earlier, Mr. Valeda stepped up to be the leader. So then they served him with a restraining order. And there were no more people left that were willing to take that leadership role or that could take that leadership role. And so the entire project was scrapped. So that was a win for Scientology. Then they prevented Mr. Valeda from ever being in the area that he normally protests because of this restraining order. So, because he follows the law. So now he can go back to protesting and doing what he was doing before, and he was very effective, and that's why they go after him.
Yes.
The reason they went after Mr. Good on numerous occasions is because he's so effective. The reason they went after Mr. Hofstetter was because he was effective. And the reason they're after my client here today, Mr. Valeda, is because he's effective.
So that leads me to ask, same judge with DOA's case, do you think that shows good fruits for DOA coming
I
up?
have no idea because I know you're talking about Mr. Hofstetter.
Yes.
I represented Mr. Hofstetter with my co-counsel on that case,
The slap.
Matthew Struger, because we brought a anti-slap.
Right.
And we prevailed on one of these bogus civil harassment restraining orders on an anti-slap. It never even went to trial on the merits because the whole thing was found to be a strategic lawsuit against public participation. So the court recognized it was bogus. So I represented him on that only. I do not represent him on this particular restraining
personal
order.
opinion, but you don't
and
have
I
to.
haven't been in court, so
Sure,
I
of
don't
course.
have an opinion.
Of course.
I'm going to have to just watch the decision with everyone else
Sure.
and find out. I understand Mr. Hofstetter represented himself on that matter.
Effectively.
I've heard he did a good job, and
Did a
I've
great
not been in
job.
court though, so I can't give an opinion.
Another question I have is, now that it's been, minus the anti-slaps, with the tangible trials, now it's been 2 for 2. Judges will talk amongst themselves. The last one with Streets LA, that was in a local law journal, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm wondering, will judges see any potential future cases? And of course they have to examine each case for its merit, but might they be a little more reflexive to throw these type of cases out immediately before it even gets to trial? Might they be more reflexive? I don't even know if you could dismiss an RO. Maybe you can't, and that's a different set of circumstances. But would they be more reflexive to either dismiss or grant an anti-slap? Is it going to be easier at this point? And will getting to trial even be a lot tougher on Scientology's part?
I think it's a good question, good set of questions.
Thank you.
Restraining orders are taken very seriously here. And in California, we also take due process very seriously. That's why we allow lengthy trials. That's why we allow a lot of what we allow. But sometimes it's frustrating to people that feel like, well, wait a minute, there's no basis to this. But at the end of the day, we give everyone an opportunity to put on their case. We give everyone an opportunity with our process. And I don't think any of the judges have any kind of reflexive reaction to these kinds of cases.
Sure.
Having said that, though, I'm not a judge, so I don't know how much they talk amongst themselves about their cases. I can't speak
No,
to
they have a
that.
water cooler.
But we all read the Daily Journal.
Right. That was big.
Would be lawyers and judges alike. And we are all aware of what goes on in the courthouse. And we're all human. But beyond that, I do have to say that the judges that I go before in this courthouse are highly professional. They do a very good job being impartial, and
They have to, of course.
and they take every case as a new, fresh look, even if it's a known litigant. Unless you have a litigant who...
Now the litigant is known, so that's good. They know what they do at They're more familiar with them versus ransom person
Right,
versus
but-
ransom person.
But I don't think it's going to impact your
course.
impartiality on
Right.
case by case. I don't think so. There are other factors, though. I do think there is a pattern here. And I think Scientology is treading on very dangerous territory to continue to do the same thing with these unwitting litigants, often who don't even realize how they're being used, over and over and over. Because here's what happens in the end. I have 3 attorney's fees motions pending against the 3 cases that I won before this. One of those is a mandatory fee statute that means they have to order the fees. It's just a question of certain amounts and all of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But it does have to be ordered. 2 of them are discretionary, meaning that the judge gets to decide whether or not to order the fees. I am going to make those requests on each and every case I win in these Scientology matters. I do not do that on every restraining order case that I've had in my career. In fact, I rarely do it. But on these cases, I will do it. It is important that my clients do not have to pay for their legal defense in these bogus cases. And it is important that the litigants that bring these cases on behalf of Scientology, even though they're not formally doing it on behalf of Scientology, they are, in essence, doing it on behalf of Scientology. Maybe Scientology is paying their fees on the primary case. I'd like to know, is Scientology going to pay their fees if we win our motion for fees? And maybe that's going to make people think twice about bringing these things in the first place.
Do you have any general estimates as to how much they spent in each case altogether? How much
gosh.
they're wasting?
Wow. I don't know how much Mr. Moxon makes an hour.
Right, curious.
This was a
Hopefully not
3-day
much.
trial. I have not calculated my hours yet.
Sure.
But it's expensive to go to trial. What I can tell you, another client of mine is present here today, and Mr. Good's case was a 5-day trial.
Right.
And Mr. Struger and I tried that together. I was first chair, he was second chair. We both worked on it. Our fees motion is asking for over $175,000.
Wow, that's a pretty penny.
I am $650 an hour. When I filed my fee motion, my fees went up in the interim. My co-counsel is $950 an hour.
Well
Good
deserved.
legal counsel is often not
Bernie,
cheap.
stop spreading misinformation.
I don't know how much.
But is
Mr.
Moxon good?
is now.
So you might get the discount rate
I
with him.
also know that in Mr. Good's case, opposing counsel is a very good lawyer and a very expensive lawyer, and he had more resources on the case than I did, even with having the
Yes.
esteemed Mr. Struger as my second chair.
Yeah.
Who was both an honor and incredibly helpful. Even with how much we cost, the opposing counsel in that case, I expect expended more money because an entire firm of resources was on that case. Much more resources than I or Mr. Struger
Cool.
have at our disposal.
That's good news.
So, and Scientology was paying for all that because that came out in the testimony that they were paying for all the legal fees. So,
Right.
you know,
Right.
it's going to get expensive because it's expensive to fight these when protesters have good legal counsel.
And I don't want to pressure you if you don't want to give your personal opinion. That's your choice. But I've noticed there is a difference of representation between Streets LA, which was a tougher case in a lot of ways, and in the Danny case. Do you think the attorney for Streets LA was more effective? And do you think there was some incompetence on Moxon's part? And do you think he was do you think he's been a good attorney in this case?
You mentioned Streets LA, and I thought that was sort of a shorthand for my client, Mr. Good. Do you mean
Yeah,
in that
sorry.
case opposing counsel? Or
Yeah, opposing. That's what I meant. Yeah, the bald gentleman.
You're asking if
He seemed much better than Kendrick Moxon.
Anthony Brown. You're asking me
Anthony,
if Anthony
yeah.
Brown is a better attorney than
Thank you, Beto Tugano.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
all of you
Was-
that are
was
here.
one
Thank
easier
you
to
so
deal with than the
much.
other? How about that?
How is he not? They keep losing.
I'll answer for you.
I would like
He was
to
way
answer.
better.
I was watching.
Moxon sucks.
Okay, I would like to answer.
You know Will's
that
answer.
question.
I appreciate that.
Mr. Brown is a very competent attorney.
I agree.
He was never rude to me.
That's different.
I have no problem speaking to him on the phone and meet and confer.
Judge complimented him, not this time.
I think that he launched a very rigorous prosecution of his case.
Yes.
I cannot say any of the same things about Mr. Moxon.
Duly noted.
And that is all I have to say about my opinion about the attorneys.
Duly noted.
It's not my opinion, it's my experience.
Do you feel that Moxon
Well played.
showed you professional courtesy and respect?
Great question.
Professional courtesy.
I don't feel he did. I personally don't feel that way.
Answer the question.
Yeah, just answered it all.
Yes, Jen.
Her
Yes,
answer's no. I'll
Sandra.
answer for her. Gotcha.
He has some work to do about how to treat opposing counsel.
Moxon's very rude.
And I'm not accustomed
Moxon
to
child
being
trafficked
treated
his own
the way he
kids.
spoke to me privately. And that's all I'll say about it.
Do you feel that the judge was thorough in her ruling and explaining her ruling that it will make it difficult to appeal this case for Mr. Campos?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
But Mr. Campos needs to make that decision if he's going to appeal the case, and he has a given period of time to do so, and we'll see what happens.
Will you be filing a fee hearing?
Yes, I will be.
Do you think the church will try again for another RO, or do they keep getting defeated? And at least I'm here to slap him in the face and publicize this. I mean, do you think they'll feel it's worth it anymore? Or do
I
you almost
don't
have
know.
carte blanche?
That's up to them. 'Cause
Cool.
I
Well,
made
you'll
it
be here
clear I'm not
otherwise.
going away.
I love that. That's what I was going to say. You'll be here
I've
otherwise.
represented Mr. Booth for a while. We've been through this more than
When we
once.
were in agreement, yes.
And we've
So
been
right
through
after he
this.
won, he put this cake
Yeah,
out.
we've been through this.
That says
yeah.
Scientology people. And he walked out in front of Moxon.
Thank you,
It's a
Kalia.
really
And,
ugly
everybody
thing
was chanting
that
something
people that
great.
don't like what they see protesters doing choose to use something in the legal system that is designed to protect people who need protection, and they're using it to stop speech that they don't like. And it's wrong. The best I can do is keep representing the folks that need the help, and so we stop this. I am hopeful that the cost of this will make Scientology think twice, listen, and stop purposely getting in this situation. This is a big loss for them.
I had a question. Is there any grounds for any of your clients or any potential people that are being harassed or silenced to file a class action lawsuit against them?
Good question.
I don't know. I don't do class action, so one of the things I think makes an attorney a good attorney is to be able to admit that what one knows and what one doesn't know, and I know what I don't know, and I don't know class action. It's not something that I do, so I don't know. I don't know how much of this is going on elsewhere and how much of a pattern there is. I just know that in these 4 cases, Scientology has been interwoven in every aspect of it. Their people, their lawyers, their money. And all of these 4 cases on which I represented the winning respondents, all of these restraining orders, each of the 4, benefits Scientology more, vastly more, than it would ever benefit the individual person who brought the restraining order request. So.
And can I ask you one more? I'm curious. So now you've done 2 of these cases in a row. Is there a personal impetus as to why you're doing these types of cases? It seems like you've been a big advocate to make sure that people are able to continue protesting in the city of Los Angeles. So is there something kind of in your heart that makes you want to do these types of cases?
Sure.
Cool. I figured.
I met my client William Gu because of my activism and because of his activism. And part of why I'm a lawyer is because of what I believe.
Cool.
And I was protesting and doing activism long before I had a law degree.
No respect. Cool.
So, but I don't feel like that's something worthy of congratulations. I think we're all, we all have beliefs, and we all have issues and things that matter to us.
Sure.
And we all have a way that we can do something about that. Everybody has a different way. And for me, protesting and different types of activism. Then when I became a lawyer, that allowed me, in addition to the work I was paid for, to do other things that I wasn't paid for, and some of the work I'm paid for kind of crosses into the activism. And that's when I'm happiest, when I don't have to separate the work I pay for the work that's the activism. It all gets to come together, and I can be doing what I want to do to feel like it's making a difference. So these cases do intersect with what I've done for many, many years, because I know restraining orders very well. And they're very much a part of family law practice, at least in the practice the way I have practiced. And I can recognize when these laws are being abused. And that's clearly what happened here. And Mr. Good became a client some time ago, and here we are. Before he was involved with the Scientology protesting, because he's done a lot for this city in his police watching, and he has been targeted for that. And he came to me for that originally. So, and I'm happy to help, because I think what he's doing, as I've said before, has helped our city tremendously. Mr. Good is a treasure to the city of Los Angeles, and we should all be really happy that he does what he does, and he puts himself out there and puts himself at risk to make the police behave better so that we are all safer.
Checks and balances.
And the Scientology protesting is also helping our city. And the protesters that are out there discouraging people from getting involved with this cult, it's a cult, and they act like a gang. We've heard the phrase recently, the accusations are actually admissions. And the way they kept calling my client a gang member, and, saying and an agitator, and the words that were used, those can be used about Scientology.
Meanwhile, they're child trafficked
Scientology
kids.
functions like a gang.
Yeah,
They are a cult.
Danny mentioned that too. About the traffic.
They are a cult, and they need to have
They're child
absolute
trafficking
control,
kids.
and they do seem to
Cult.
have absolute
No
control
less.
over their members. And unsuspecting people, tourists up on Hollywood Boulevard, people in the Blue Building area that get involved with this place thinking, oh, I'm just going to look into it, and then they get sucked in, and next thing you know, they're in a cult. I think warning people about that stuff. I've had the opportunity to talk with individuals, and some of you were here, that were raised in Scientology and were subjected to abuses that are horrific. And in my family law practice, I have gone up against child sexual abusers who are the parents of their own children. So some of the stories I've heard from people that grew up in Scientology cross into that territory. And it's horrifying. And the fact that the protesters are monitoring and documenting and filming the transport of children in and out of Scientology buildings, documenting all these bizarre things they see at all hours of the day and night, and then putting it on live stream on YouTube. What a service. What a service.
Yes.
That way, somebody can access that information. If they get pulled into Scientology, and you go on the internet now, you're going to see a lot of this stuff that many of you are doing, including my client today, Mr. Vallejo.
Well, that's the scooter guy. I mean, he approached me when my very first live. I was like going live, and I didn't even know about these tactics of Scientology. And I came to see my husband, and all of a sudden, this guy on a scooter came to me, and I thought he was drunk, and I kept walking out of his way, and because I was walking out of his way, he never hit me. And then I actually recorded him later, and he was like, "What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing? Blah 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 blah." But it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that they're even propping these guys up like this.
Well,
I'll put.
they lost today.
Yep, beautiful.
Fourth time. They
Yep.
bring one of these, and they lost.
It's called a pattern. It's called a pattern.
Yes, Mr. Good.
Yeah. So there's actually a motion in front of the city council that's right now that's being considered. It's motion, I think it's 240910. And that would prevent protesters from protesting within 300 feet of a religious organization facility, a hospital, schools, or any public facility, which would include this courthouse right here. If that were to pass, we would not be allowed to protest right here. we'd have to go 300 feet away from any of these public buildings, including the LAPD headquarters and City Hall across the street. That was actually mentioned in the case. Mr. Moxon brought that up during argument about what he said was proposed by the mayor to that city council file. What do you think about that? The fact that he brought that up during his argument.
I think Mr. Moxon does a lot of those Scientology things to try to get as much information about whoever's skin he wants to get under as possible. And there's not a lot of information out there about me. But there's enough information out there about me, and there is a Palestine flag sticker
On your
my
computer.
laptop. So, twice in this case, he raised the issue of the way I spoke of Scientology, because here's the first one, and it'll get to the answer to your question. The first time he raised an issue, I think using the fact that I am general counsel and on the board of directors, founding board of directors of an organization called Gaza's Children that was created by a colleague of mine to help the children who are victims of what's happening in Palestine right now. And she's a therapist and a lawyer, and we are trying to provide trauma services to these children and their families as best we can. So all of this is something he could have found out about me on the internet. So what does he do in the case? He says that when I referred to Scientology as Scientology, he stopped everything and said that council needs to refer to it as Church of Scientology, and that she's being disrespectful about Scientology, the Church of Scientology, the same way someone would be disrespectful of Jews if they use a term and use some other term about the Jewish faith and the Jewish people, and he likened it to that. He did that twice in this case. Why would he do that? Why would he try to paint me in some way that sounds like maybe he's making an anti-Semitism analogy and all of that? He did that a couple of times. He did raise that when he brought up that particular piece of law, that motion. I actually filed public comment against it when it first was raised. I don't think he knew that, but he brought it up and said, this is the trend. This is where we're going to protect people. And he spoke about it like it was something the judge should consider in her ruling. The judge shouldn't be considering any potential law. The judge can only make a decision on the law on which this entire matter is based, which has nothing to do with what he raised. Do I think that particular motion is a good idea or a bad idea? I think it's a terrible idea. One of the places that you're not going to be allowed to protest is any educational institution.
Yeah.
UCLA, UC Berkeley, Cal State LA, Loyola, USC. You're gonna enact something. Our elected officials are going to enact something that prevents college students from protesting at their university. The whole thing was designed, it was brought forward by Councilmember Yaroslavsky, who was annoyed and upset when Palestine liberation protesters went to the front of a synagogue that was being used on a weekend for the sale, the illegal sale of land in the West Bank that belongs to Palestinians, and the sales were only being made to Jewish people, and they use the synagogue for these sales, so then they can claim First Amendment right to practice my religion. Nobody was protesting the Jewish religion. Nobody was protesting Jewish people. What they were protesting was the illegal sale. In a country that it's illegal to do that, the illegal sale of West Bank land that belongs to Palestinians to Jewish people in America. That was the protest, and the violence was not instigated by the protesters. It was instigated by Zionists who came into the protest, and the police assisted them. The violence was not instigated by the Palestine liberation protesters, but what came out of that and the way it was reported was wrong and inaccurate at best. Inaccurate at best. And then all of this hullabaloo happened. And that particular motion, in my opinion, only includes educational facilities, medical facilities. because those of us who've been involved in the pro-choice movement remember the days in the 80s when you couldn't get into an abortion clinic because there was a mob around it with dead baby pictures not allowing you to get into the clinic. And we had trouble getting any kind of laws passed to stop that. So they're appealing to the liberals that remember those things. Oh yeah, medical facilities. People shouldn't have to tolerate all kinds of protesting in front of medical facilities. That's all been thrown in, and so they can do what they want to do, to go after the Palestine Liberation activists in this city who are going to continue to protest against things like the illegal sale of West Bank land to people here.
I mean, I would add also, there were some sexual scandals over at USC and UCLA where the doctors at the hospitals were sexually abusing people. Under this law, if it were to go into place, the victims, the rape victims at the hospital would not be able to protest their own doctor.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true. They would not be able to protest anything. It's not just Palestine liberation. You are right. Anything that you want to protest if you're a university student. Look, I was a student in the 80s at UCLA. I was an undergraduate student. I was part of the occupation of the Charles Young, the chancellor's office. And we were there overnight. We were blocking the entrance to the chancellor's office. It was a fire hazard. And the interim chancellor, while the chancellor was out of town, decided not to call the police, even though we were told we were going to be arrested. And he decided not to call the police because he said, this is what we learn in college. This is what these students are learning, is about how to do a peaceful protest. Civil disobedience is protected in this country, and I am not calling the police. And we were there all night. So what were we protesting? Apartheid in South Africa. What are the Palestine liberation people protesting? Apartheid in Palestine and a genocide. So, you know, things, Mr. Moxon is correct. It is the trend. He is correct. There is a trend to curtail our free speech. None of what's in that motion is constitutional, and the U.S. Supreme Court has made clear that it's not constitutional. So I don't know what they're thinking.
I'm thinking that if they were to
Exactly,
place-
Doug. Our mission impossible is to
I'm arrested for-
enforce the laws having to do with child trafficking.
I have a question. I have a question.
Yeah.
One of the channels last night voiced his opinion about Danny's case and about he should just take a plea and roll over and not spend all this money proving his case against Scientology. Can you give me your reflection
That
on
was Danny's original attorney. That's what he told him to do.
I did not, how do I put this? There were settlement offers made. My client and I did not feel we needed to settle the case for the offers that were made. Any settlement that involved my client having to keep away from this individual would curtail his protest activities. And what would happen, and I've experienced this on each and every one of the other cases I've had, there's always a settlement offer, and these were all with different attorneys. There was always a settlement offer. Hey, we're going to end the Kletz order. That's entered in the law enforcement system, so anywhere you go in the state, you get pulled over for traffic violation, they're going to look you up and see there's a restraining order against you. It's not a good thing. It can interfere with your employment. It can interfere with a lot in your life. So a settlement offer usually involves some kind of stay away that will not be entered in the Kletz system. So it can still end up with something like that if you violate it, but it's a softer, gentler, kinder way to keep people apart. And sometimes we use them in the family law context, but generally we don't like to settle a domestic violence order in that way because if it was a serious enough situation to require a domestic violence restraining order in the first place, maybe we need to figure out something that's still going to protect this person in that way. So these offers that get made, here's why in a general sense, not specific to my client today, but in a general sense why these kinds of offers are a problem in these kinds of cases. Because we believe that Scientology, and we do have evidence this is happening, Scientology is really in charge of what these litigants are doing who ask for these restraining orders. If they get some kind of settlement out of one of my clients, oh, you got to stay 300 feet away from my client, but it's not a Quetz order, what do you think's going to happen? Let's use Mr. Valeda as an example, because that's the case we're on today. Mr. Valeda is doing his live streaming stationary in one place, like he was for a lot of what was going on here. And then the guy on the scooter just rolls into his live stream and hangs around him and scoots back and forth. We have video, that's what he did. And then, okay, he can call Scientology, okay, I'm near him now. Or Scientology can tell him, hey, with our zillion security cameras, we see the dude. He's on the corner. Mr. Valeda's on the corner.
by him.
Go scoot around him for a while. Mr. Valeda's going to have to move, even though it's supposed to work. That if you put yourself into the vicinity of someone that you have a restraining order against, that's not supposed to work for you. But what happens is, if you two are in the vicinity and the person who's got the restraining order against you calls the police, you're going to have to rely on the police to believe you that he came into your space. So Mr. Valeda would still have to stop protesting at the Blue Building to avoid Mr. Campus. And that's what we don't want. And we have the same situation with Mr. Boone, this whole idea of like, oh, but it's just this one person, and let's make an agreement, you both will stay away from each other at those kinds of offers. And it's ridiculous because Scientology is calling the shots with these people, and they are monitoring where people like Mr. Boone are, or people like Mr. Hoxton are, or people like Mr. Valeda are, and they're going to send out their people to get in their way and agitate and get some kind of reaction. That's what they're looking for. They got very little reaction out of Mr. Valeda, by the way.
Yeah, I saw
In one of the incidents, Mr. Valeda says, nothing. They didn't get what they wanted, and they brought their restraining order anyway because they just lied.
Yep.
The video didn't lie. You can't settle these cases. When you've got a case that is baseless, why would you settle it?
Amen.
And the only thing I'd settle it for is drop it now so I don't have to go to trial, and I won't go after you for fees. That's fair. But it's not a case with any basis. None of these cases have any basis. So, yeah.
Dorothy, I got a serious question for Danny.
I'll give you forever.
Ask Danny a question. Let him have
No,
some
this is
choice
an
out
important
there.
one for Danny. Pepsi or Coke? Pepsi, of course.
I think this is your lucky blue shirt now.
Well, I just got fixed buttons for you.
Danny, you want to give a speech?
Yeah, Danny, let's hear from you. How do you feel?
Well, I feel great. Thanks everyone for the support.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Originally, we were going to
Full
take a
40
settlement
minutes, right?
because
I see
they
it.
went after my visa sense of like, oh, I'm okay if I lose, it's going to stay my record, so it'll be harder. But we contacted my immigration attorney with Dorothy, and they had a call, and they're like, go ahead, feel free to do it. If you lose, the only thing that would cause it is to delay it a little bit. But with the evidence that we have, we're in the clear. So that's why we ended up going all the way
Beautiful.
to the end.
Did you feel it was dirty of them to try to use immigration status as a like a leverage point or a weapon against you?
Oh, hell yeah. But you know what? Either way, if my immigration lawyer would have said no, I would still have risked it all for the movement.
Imagine how dirty Scientology is with immigration. If they really want to talk about immigration, Scientology, you're dirty as fuck. You've been bringing children, making them, grooming them to lie to the ICE officers, to lie to the INS, to tell them lies. OSA grooms you to lie when you're being trafficked straight through the American border. So shout out to ICE that is not doing their goddamn job.
Dorothy?
That's the truth.
Well, I appreciate everyone here coming, staying here for all 3 days. I know it was boring the first 2 days.
It was a show. It was great.
I'm happy you won. You deserve that. Finally, a little bit of justice. Actually, there's not justice until Campos is made on it.
Yeah.
He drives a Mercedes.
Well,
Danny's going to be driving the Mercedes.
I'm not going to head to blue and to be always score.
Guy. Sleeping on a mattress on the floor.
I'm away to
He can room with
And then there's going to be another win on Monday.
Yeah,
It'll be
I'm
another
still
win.
nervous.
Yeah, you're nervous. I'm not. You're gonna win.
Don't.
You're
It'll
gonna
be 3
win.
wins
You're
this
gonna
week.
win. And it'll be 3 wins because he had a win yesterday.
Although it's a competition, whose mouth is bigger?
The Judge scolded ZDT, Zero Dark Zone. He did.
Yeah, how are you feeling, Solomon?
Every single
Solomon,
one of you guys
report.
have
Are you at ease?
on the legal funds.
Are you feeling good?
Thank you guys for the support that you guys have given me.
Well, we're only saying there isn't really that much of a process you can do, especially in our own case. It has to be a deep incompetence on the judge's part.
It was
There's no
well
deep
worth it.
incompetence on the judge.
I'm
It's a
glad
very
I ended
different
up
type of
firing the firm and the lawyer and the association with the third party because that was most of the
So it
case.
has nothing to do with
So I'm glad I
this evidence.
And she never messed
got
up
rid of it.
whatsoever.
So it's not.
He wasn't in court 3 times. She even stated to him. And there it is. It's done. It's over. And I did nothing.
I'm telling you better. Together, they're grooming all their kids to lie to the immigration people so that they can get trafficked. They groom underage children to lie to the immigration people so the child can be trafficked into the United States of America. So imagine that Scientology really wants to talk about immigration when they're so dirty. They're completely violating all the laws and grooming kids so that they can have them be trafficked into the United States. Kids from Venezuela, kids from Switzerland, kids from Australia, kids from Mexico, kids from Canada, kids from London, England, all types of countries. Kids that are being brought into the United States to be slaves, to be role-playing, being slaves for adults, Scientology adults, that are all about having the children be slaves inside hotels and commercial buildings. So why are children being brought into the United States to do this? Yes.
Oh, cool. Well, glad I ran into you. Thank you.
$35 million. Dan.
Well, he's somebody good to connect. Well, thank you for talking with us. Wallerstein versus Scientology.
We're
Thank
well
you.
aware.
Cool. You might know it.
Oh yeah, that was the one where they
Somewhere
said
in
that
the W, right?
Scientology
Yeah,
in the
I
public.
forgot.
It's part of the public.
Was it Waldenstein?
Hey Dorothy, you can team up a good guy.
How you doing? Good, how are you?
Plus, I wasn't gonna capture the moment of if it wasn't in our favor. From 9:35
Kelly's
to
work of art.
9:58, Judge Scully ripped Moxon 5 to 8 new ones,
You know what I'm gonna do.
calling out every
Standing
hole in his weak arguments. That I use blue pen to really show the tears.
Appreciate the super chats. No, I have the most people watching, but yeah, perhaps fairly so. I'm not the one that gets the biggest super chats.
Those schools are very hot. About my
Hearing it, other
Be back here on Monday. Take care of this guy over here. Unless tonight, are you protesting anything tonight?
7 o'clock, Magic Castle.
7 o'clock. It's talking about
Oh, 7 o'clock at Magic Castle stand. And so
You'll be there.
we're gonna let the Magic Castle know that they have been child trafficking, child auditing, elderly abusing, labor slaves, indentured servants, one of their indigent servants. And I'm a former magician. So
Oh yeah.
And-
We're breaking news here,
yeah,
guys.
so
breaking news.
So 7 o'clock, they're going to be there if anyone wants to join. There's one entrance going in. There's a public sidewalk right in front. They have to go up the hill.
Yep.
So
7 o'clock, Magic Castle, Franklin.
50-50.
No, I
Jessica,
was-
so the
listen,
chat knows
listen,
Jessica
listen.
was right on the 50.
No. But
No,
if we had gotten arrested last night, we would not be here right
That
now.
wasn't the point.
Yes, no, but he
I texted you last night.
He said that. He said that.
And I was at a shooting last night, so I couldn't. There's only one thing left to do now. There's one thing left to do now. Dodge. I can hold your phone. We need some freestyling. We got to hear a freestyle. We got to celebrate.
Just to thank you. I guess you can feel me. I suppose.
Wait, hold on.
Here we go.
Let me fix my tie. I feel like a mess. Well, just a little background. Not that I'm amazing at freestyling, but as Will mentioned, you can all look this up on YouTube. But when I was 15 years old, Ice-T did a reality show at my prep school, so he taught me and like 7 other kids how to rap. And I was the freestyler, so at the end we opened for Public Enemy. And I was terrible, so some guy threw a cup in my head, one guy threw a nickel at me, and then I was trying to take my mic in the audience, and one guy was trying to forcibly take the microphone away from me. But with all that being
Is that on video?
Yeah. If
Okay.
you YouTube Ice-T's rap school, the entire, it was a one season on VH1 in like 2006.
I'm not gonna lie, I watched it.
I'm honored. Thank you for watching it.
I was curious.
It's really boring, so I'm
No,
honored
it was
you sat
pretty
through that.
entertaining.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm shocked somebody actually enjoyed it. So, yo,
Here we go.
it's Danny versus Phil. Phil said he's been ill, had to take the pill. Just look at his back, the pain is whack. It's all about to cause a heart attack. Go back to black, he's on his scooter, he's on the move. He don't have that groove, he got a mattress on the bed. The pain, he said, goes to his head. That's why he's been harassed, that's why he's been threatened, that's why he's been yelled at. But he's also been spat at of the protesters. He's tried to stop the First Amendment. He's trying to stop it again. We won't let that happen because we ain't capping. Danny's got the rep. Danny's got Dorothy. She clicks her heels. Everything disappears.
Yes.
Scientology, thank you all for the support. Come and help support freedom. You know you want some. There
That's
you go.
right.
That's good.
That's right. Yeah.
Good.
Wait. We got one more song to sing.
Okay.
One more song. The anthem. Give it to us because this was used in your case. They tried to say that this was like an act of violence because he was singing this song. So you want to give us? You want to sing for us right here? Here we go.
Wonder why they call you bitch. You wonder. That's it. I like it.
Hey, this got me some super chats. So they
Right. Hey, make sure you give Dodge a super chat. This guy travels all over the country. And you know what? Don't just give it for him. Give it for his awesome dog.
Aw, thank you. Shout out to Gizmo.
Shout out Pinata.
Pinata, you just wait, we'll get there. Once upon a time. Hey, one more song. Just so we know this one by Queen here at the Champions.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
We are the champions, my friend.
And he'll keep on fighting till the end. No time for scooters. No time for scooters. We are the champions. We are the champions of Big Blue. For you, Daddy. Thank you. You're welcome. You're welcome. Yeah, we will rock you. No bites the dust. That's true. Another one bites the dust. Another tiara bites the dust. And another one bites the dust.
Mm.
Cool. Love you all. I gotta catch the plane.
And that tax exempt status is what allows them to have the power they have. As soon as that's revoked, everything changes. And I think when Representative Jamie
Los Angeles Superior Court. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you so much for keeping us safe. Thank you so much for pushing back on all the corruption and all the disgusting schemes that everyone is seeing with their own eyes. That's what you guys help with. Witnessing, being witnesses and supporting and speaking truth to power and not letting people trample all over people who are fighting for kids to not be forced into slavery, kids that are not going to be forced into role playing, being a child slave for the self gratification of the L. Ron Hubbard sycophant proteges that are pretending that their rights come first, that their unfettered access to children is a so-called legal right that they have. And the law does not support that delusion. The law does not agree whatsoever with their delusion. The law is clear. Aggravated child abuse is a felony. Kidnapping is a felony. Locking up passports of underage children is a felony. Telling a child that they're responsible for having been raped is a felony. All of that is a felony. There's no defense for that. Brian Moxon is not going to be able to defend that ever. He's got skin in the game. Brian Moxon child trafficked his own kids. Brian Moxon made his own children become slaves. And he's all about it. Imagine you're an attorney and you put your children to become slaves. Imagine what type of law license he can really be handling with that level of utter ineptitude, with that level of utter criminal, disgusting, full impunity behavior. But again, they all go with the pitch, oh, the convicted felon L. Ron Hubbard said we could do it, you guys. And Brian Moxon is all about it, so it must be very legal. Stop playing dumb. Stop being an idiot. Stop being a full-blown, grown degenerate that is paying to be a sycophant of a convicted felon. It's really that simple.
But when it's actually in front of you and you're dealing with something that's currently going on and with your child who's disclosing, it is fascinating how much you talk about. And that's what I encountered in my work. And it's very difficult because the system does not want this to be true, so the children are not ultimately protected. So I have a great sensitivity to that. I've walked through a lot of people's trauma with that. And I know what you're doing is very hard.
Yeah, it's because of this one right here, you know. Wow.
Well, thank you.
Well, thank you for all your love and your compassion and your, and being here. It's like, we can't do this without people like you.
You give lawyers a good name for me. I mean, imagine that every part of the abuse that I received as a child has been co-signed by lawyers. Our parents followed the advice of lawyers. Said, oh, L. Ron Hubbard, convicted felon. Oh, claim it's a religion. And then all of a sudden, the laws won't apply. And that's what we're denouncing, because the lawyers are the ones that actually are the puppeteers of all this racketeering criminal scheme. They went and got a law license. They know the law. They know the laws on the side of protecting children. And they were paid to consult their client to not break the law. And that's what we're seeing right here. Lawyers that have been paid to ensure their client is reined back. These are the parameters. Don't do this, otherwise you're going to be in trouble. The law is clear. Like, aggravated child abuse is not a religious experience for any child. We've seen that with Ruby Franke, Jody Hildebrand, all these cases that have reported that religion is an end-all of end-alls, and it's not. It's just, it's been it's been people playing dumb for against the children. We couldn't defend ourselves. We didn't understand what in the hell was going on. It's taken me 45 years to unravel and to be here now on the flip side, understanding that the law always was on our side. The law's not the problem, it's the people that are consulting their client to break the laws and enable the breaking of those laws, and the law enforcement hogwashing it and being all about it, because we've not
There's
seen.
a lot of failures of the adults, a lot of failures in how the system is used, and there is a lack of enforcement. There's a lot of failures within the system. You can have a written law, but it's only as good as the people that are going to adhere to it, enforce it, all of that. And I'm so sorry. And I understand that now you're saying what happened to all the mothers, and that's got to be an amazing way to walk through your own guilt.
Well, as adults, no one stood up for us. And the only thing on the flip side that I can do is to call out these things, because I know how they hide. I know the delusion they have in their head. It's a criminal delusion. It's criminal delusions of grandeur that are going, all these parents, a convicted felon wrote things down on a piece of paper so we can follow it blindly, break all the laws, and pretend it's a religious experience. And that's what we're denouncing now. And everything gets sanitized with the status quo and all of these things, but enough is enough. Like, the law is clear, and the children that are there need to be protected. Like, we escaped.
Thank you for disclosing your own experience as a way to help end this for other people.
I have to. We have to. And thank you for hearing. Thank you for listening.
I'm going to have to get moving.
Yes.
You have to get back to your
One of my followers right now, they want me to ask you, did you wear the goldenrod color on purpose?
No. I was aware though. I like this dress. It's a happy dress.
It's a beautiful dress.
And so that's
And
what
the
I wore
heels.
today. But I understand there is some other meaning to it as well, and that meaning doesn't bother me.
Beautiful. We love it. We love it. Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you, Dorothy.
Hi, guys. So, wow, what a great interview with Dorothy after the fact. You just hear, don't roll over. Don't roll over and get fucked while you're watching being fucked by somebody. We're here for a mission.
Exactly, Emma. Brian Moxon's head is being put on a pike by Dave right now. He's being yelled at, he's being screamed at, he's being told, you're so ineffective, you're so stupid, you humiliated us, you can't do anything right, you're such an idiot. That's what he's being told right now as we speak. And the whole little OSA team, they're all being yelled at and screamed at for losing yet another illegal scheme that they set out to do. Dorothy's heels literally 6 inches. Respect. Respect. Exactly, Laura. He's a fucking Scientology parent that child trafficked his own kids. No wonder he cannot see his out ethics, because he couldn't be more mutual our roots out to his neck and ears. He's completely complicit in the systemic, institutionalized practice of telling children that they are slaves and that they need to be working for degenerate adults that want to get off on abusing kids that way. Highly illegal. Brian Moxon, open up the law instead of opening up the stupid convicted felon writer L. Ron Hubbard's books that have led you to be a disgusting criminal enabler. Your law license should be revoked. It should be shredded. It's a literal insult that you have one whatsoever. Exactly, selfless. Victory for all who stand up to child abusers. Victory to all of you who have understood the assignment, understood the message, understood the seriousness of it.
Is that okay?
Are you ready? Okay. Let's go. Yeah. No,
Clean that up.
yeah, but I'll do it in the car. No, Nisa, the judge didn't hate Kendra Moxon. She just saw through it. She was very impartial. She was very specific about her ruling. It was very, 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 very specific. So I don't think the judge, she just did her job. Yeah. Are you ready to leave?
Yeah, I'm ready. I want to say goodbye.
What? So you can coach it? And that's exactly what he did. And he came back into the courtroom and then defined what a PR was. Generally, just very generally, but not specific. Oh, I didn't catch that. I didn't catch that thing that Tori told me about that this morning. I didn't hear that. But that's amazing.
Justice prevails. 4 times so far, justice has prevailed. For all the schemes that they have brought up, they have a pattern of scheming, they have a pattern of using the law, weaponizing the law. Thank you guys for caring, and thank you guys for acknowledging that. Exactly. Integrity operates beyond the binds of emotionality. Also, not likely a judge hates. They discern. They're not stupid, you guys. The judges have the ability to discern and the ability to look at what's been presented. And since Scientology never presents facts, they present their delusions and they present their schemes. They don't come with good faith. They don't come to advocate for anything other than utilizing the law so that their illegal scheme of unfeathered access to kids, of pretending that making a child role play as a slave is a religious experience for said child, that they could consent to that. That's what Scientology is after protecting. They don't want that little disgusting practice to end. And that's what is being denounced. That's what's being literally denounced, given that the law states that is a criminal act to do that to a child. The truth prevails.
Yeah, so Jimmy Connell was the sheriff. Was the sheriff? Was the sheriff? It was back.
Yeah, shout out to all attorneys that take their job serious. Shout out to them. Because that's what we need. That's what all people that are doing this job deserve. Good legal representation. Good legal representation is what we deserve. Despite being told we don't deserve it, despite being told that, why don't you just get a public defender? Why don't you just get like whoever, whatever? Why don't you just get even highly paid attorneys that weren't doing their job? Why don't you just fold over to illegal charges? Why don't you just do that? Because that's going to save a lot of money. Imagine being that stupid to pitch that. Oh, yeah, just take the false charges. That's going to be really great for you. Imagine being that stupid. Yeah, justice for Danny, Nora. Justice prevailed because an actual attorney that takes her job seriously was hired to advocate on his behalf. That's what every single person that's been falsely accused and ensnared on purpose by Scientology deserves. To get the best of the best. Well, it's on a case-to-case basis. So Dorothy is already on our side, you guys, and that's what matters at the end of the day. It's the fact that she is willing to take on the case, willing to take on the corruption. Cheers. Hip hip hooray at the protester side. Eat this F Sciento. Yeah. They're all getting put, their heads are all being put on a pike. That's what Owen Hubbard says to do. Put heads on pikes. That's what Owen Hubbard tells his executives to do to children when they mess up something. Oh, you really missed the withhold of that self-admitted pedophile. Put a head on a pike on the child. That's what's being denounced. Just make sure you let that fully sink in for the people that are still looking to be entertained. In what world do you think that's an entertainment situation or fun? This is not fun. This is not a fun activity. Exactly, puts them through a mental health roller coaster. Well, hippie chick, we've been on this long journey trying to get a shred of justice, and we've been gaslit pretty much at every corner we've turned. And finally, we have people that do get it, that do understand the assignment, that do take their job seriously. And that is like water in this desert of no accountability. Finally, we have people that are sticking out for us, including every single one of these child advocates that have been by Scientology. And the fact is that they deserve all the defense against the racketeering enterprise going by the moniker called Scientology, founded by a convicted felon. I mean, how clearer can the facts be? we are, you know, we've been vindicated. We have been told that the facts are on our side, despite all the gaslighting, despite all the manipulation, despite all the people that want to keep playing dumb for God knows what goddamn reason. The era of playing dumb is over. The era of playing dumb is canceled. Now we need to stop them having the full unfettered access to kids. And you know what? There's already been 5 lawsuits denouncing that level of racketeering. And there's an active one in this courtroom as we speak. Jane Doe, that was literally raped as an underage child and trafficked. So there's already active litigation. What there is in any of is Homeland Security is nowhere to be found. What there's nothing of is Los Angeles Police Department is nowhere to be found to enforce a shred of law in a city that is standing by as kids are being turned into slaves. So, thank you guys so much for watching and all the support, everything you're doing. From the bottom of our hearts, thank you for listening. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye-bye.